Hey guys, tonight we will hear a dramatic story about what was the diet of a medieval peasant. It's not what you think. No feasts, no roasted boars, just scraping by one crust of bread at a time. You will never imagine that this terrible thing could happen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it in your corner of the world? Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You awake to the sound of a wooden shutter creaking open, harsh dry wind whistling through the cracks of a thatched roof above your head. The straw mattress beneath you itches and your fingers are still stiff from the cold. It's dawn in the village of Hartcombe, nestled deep in the hills of Wessex. The year is 1327. You rise from the rough bedding, wrapping a coarse woolen cloak around your shoulders. The hearth is long cold. No one lights fires overnight, not unless you want to waste the precious stockpile of wood you've gathered with aching hands. In the corner, your younger brother Wilric groans, still asleep. He's small for his age, only 9, but he already bears the weathered skin and solemn eyes of someone twice his years. Your older sister Edlin is crouched near the empty hearth, blowing on kindling with little result. And outside you hear the soft clatter of your father's boots in the frost-covered yard. Osbert is a strong man, but the weight of years and famine sit heavy in his bones. Breakfast waits, or rather, the idea of breakfast waits. You reach for the stone bowl on the shelf and scrape together what remains of yesterday's pottage, mostly water, a few limp onion skins, and a film of grease that hints someone once boiled bone in it. This is how every day begins in Hartcombe, with hunger, with hope. The door swings open. Cold air rushes in, and behind it comes your mother, Elswith. Her cheeks are red from the wind, and her hands are already raw from grinding grain. She carries a small bundle wrapped in cloth. 3 handfuls of rye, she says quietly. No more. You feel a pang in your gut, not of hunger, but frustration. 3 handfuls. You know that means bread, but not like the rich loaves they speak of in the manor house down the lane. This will be black bread, coarse, hard, bitter with chaff, and often with traces of dirt and ash from the poorly cleaned ovens. Still, you nod. Food is food. You set to work. The millstone is old and uneven, so it takes time. Your arms ache as you turn it round and round, grinding the grains down to something that resembles flour. You mix it with water and a pinch of salt, precious salt earned from trading nettles with a traveling tinker. Then you wrap the dough in leaves and press it into the side of the hearthstone, hoping it will cook before the midday bells. Wilric watches with wide eyes. "Can we put in apples this time?" he asks, hopeful. You almost laugh. Apples. The ones you gathered in late autumn were gone by the 3rd week of December, and even those were shriveled and worm-ridden. Now in the dead of winter, fresh fruit is a memory. You shake your head. "I can dream, can't I?" Wilric mumbles, turning away. Later you trudge to the field with your father and Edlin. Your task is simple: pull up turnips from the frozen soil. They're misshapen, mostly hollowed out by the frost, but they're edible. Boiled down, maybe mashed with nettles or leeks, they'll make the base of tonight's stew. If you're lucky, you'll find a beetle or 2 in the roots. Crunchy protein. Your father doesn't speak much. He used to be a plowman, strong and proud. But after the last 2 bad harvests, the plows were sold for firewood, and now you farm by hand. Each day is a wager against the sky. By midday, your fingers are numb, but your sack is half full. You return home and the house smells miraculously of baking bread. The black loaf is ready. It's heavy, cracked, parts are charred, but it's warm and it smells like survival. You break it into quarters, one for each child, half for your mother, half for your father. That's all there is. Edlin dips hers in the leftover pottage from the morning. You chew yours slowly, trying to stretch the moment. The crust grinds against your teeth. There's grit in it, likely from the grinding stone, but you don't care. Then comes the surprise. Your mother unwraps something from her apron, a piece of dried pork, a tiny wrinkled scrap of belly gifted by a neighbor in exchange for spinning wool last week. She cuts it into thin slivers, razor thin, one each. The salt hits your tongue like lightning. It's rich, greasy, almost sacred. For a moment, no one speaks. This is a feast. You think back to the old stories, the ones the village priest tells of banquets in the cities. Tables groaning under roasted birds and flagons of wine. Silver platters of venison and bowls of exotic fruits. You've never even seen a pear. Your whole life, food has been function, fuel, sometimes failure, rarely joy. But that sliver of pork, that was joy. Evening sets in. The turnip stew simmers. You stir it with care, adding dried nettles and a few wild garlic leaves Edlin found near the stream. Wilrick peels bark from a stick and pokes at the fire, humming a song about saints and seasons. The family gathers. The bowls are filled. The stew is thin but hot. You share stories as you eat of saints who turned water into beer, and legends of far-off lands where bread grows on trees. You don't believe them, but you like the way Wilrick's eyes widen. Outside, the wind howls, but inside, for one short hour, your belly is full. And tomorrow, there will be more turnips, more bitter bread. But for tonight, you are safe. You are fed. And that is enough. The night was long, but not because of fear or wolves or the things that creep beyond the firelight. It was long because of dreams, your dreams filled with visions of butter melting over warm barley cakes and honey dripping from combs you've never touched. You wake to the soft sound of rain tapping on the roof above, and a gnawing hunger already stretching inside your belly like a fist. Heartcomb is wet today, the kind of gray that sinks into bone. Outside, the fields glisten with puddles, and the path to the communal oven is already muddy. You glance around. The hearth is dark again. The black bread you made yesterday is gone, the stew bowl wiped clean with fingers and crusts. Your stomach doesn't care that it's only been a few hours. Rain means good mushroom picking, Edlin says as she ties back her hair with a fraying ribbon. She's always the optimist. The woods near Hollow Tree might yield something decent. Your father hears this and grunts from his stool. Only if the Lord's men haven't gone through first. There it is again, the unspoken rule of peasant life. The best of everything belongs to someone else. Forest mushrooms. Technically, the Lord's. Rabbits in traps, the Lord's. Even the river eels claimed. The land you live on, the grain you grow, the animals you raise, all borrowed, all taxed. And heaven help you if you're caught gathering more than a meager share. Still, Edlin insists, and by midday you're in the woods, basket slung over your shoulder. Wilrick skipping ahead, humming some tune about Michaelmas pies. You search beneath trees, under soggy leaves near rotting stumps. You find them little gray caps, trumpet-shaped chanterelles, and something your mother calls priest's ears. You hope none are poisonous. You trust your instincts. You've never had the luxury of choosing. Wilrick, wide-eyed, holds up a wormy apple. Can we use this too? You nod. It's half rotten, but the other half is good enough. You pocket it. One apple means flavor in tomorrow's stew, maybe even a tart if you can find more. Later you return to the village with damp boots and chilled hands. The others are already back. Edlin has leeks. Your mother has parsnips so thin they look like pale roots. Together the ingredients go into the pot. The mushrooms diced and cautious. The apple shaved down to a few sweet slivers. Water salt a scrap of barley from the bottom of the sack. Dinner is saved again. As it stews, you glance out toward the manor road. You see them in the distance, Lord de Mowbray's men returning from the hunt. Horses kicking up mud, laughter rising, a brace of pheasants swinging from the saddle. Their dogs bark with glee. And you feel it, that sharp stab of resentment. Not jealousy. Resentment. Because you know that meat will never touch your tongue. You'll never taste the pheasant or the boar or the roast goose they drown in spice and wine. Even though your father helped that lord build the stone wall around the manor. Even though your mother washed the linens once during the great feast last spring. Even though you and Edlin weeded the barley fields on his land for 6 days straight last harvest. Still, the laws are clear. Your life is to endure. Theirs is to indulge. You turn away. The stew is bubbling now, and the smell is earthy, almost comforting. You slice the last chunk of black bread thinly enough to dip. Your hands are careful. You divide it evenly. The ritual is as familiar as breath. That night as you eat, Edlin speaks of what she's heard from the travelers, the merchants who pass through Hartcombe once a month, swapping tin and wool for coins and gossip. They say in York the market has barley cakes dipped in honey, she says, smiling faintly, and sugared plums, even nuts wrapped in pastry. Can you believe it? Your mother scoffs. Stories meant to make fools of country folk. But you want to believe it, desperately. You want to believe there's a place where food is more than fuel, where meals are art, where flavor dances instead of trudging. Later that night, by the dim firelight, your father tells a different story. One from before the famine, before the sickness came, when food wasn't plenty, but it wasn't shameful either. We had barley, he says, voice low and rough, thick loaves, warm, sometimes baked with fat or wild herbs. Your grandmother had a way of tucking sage inside and brushing the crust with oil. It glistened like a festival lantern. He stares into the fire for a long moment. Then the rains came, he continues, and the mold, then the rats. Then the bishop's tithe rose and the land gave less, and one by one the herbs vanished, the oil dried up, and the barley shrank. He pauses. But the bread remained, because we remained. That silence after he speaks is heavier than any hunger. You lie awake that night thinking about barley bread and sage and the oily shimmer of hope. You wonder what a real festival meal might be like, how it might smell, sound, feel. Would it fill you differently? Would it make you feel more than just full? And yet as sleep finally claims you, the last thing you remember isn't the absence of honey or pheasant or pies. It's your mother's careful hands slicing bread, your father's voice steady and worn, Edlin's laugh in the woods, Wilrich's silly songs. In a world ruled by scarcity, love becomes flavor, ritual becomes seasoning, survival becomes sacred. And tomorrow, there may be wild sorrel by the creek, maybe another wormy apple. And if luck is on your side, a fishbone forgotten by the manor cook. That's a feast in Hartcombe. The frost retreats by morning, leaving behind a soggy shimmer on the village path. You press your fingers into the soft earth and lift a clump of it. It smells like decay, but also like life. Your chores start before the sun crests over the trees. The hens must be fed what little grain you can spare. The goat, thin and irritable, needs water. And the compost heap behind the hut must be turned not because anyone will see, but because your mother says, even the soil listens when you care for it. Today is market day in Alderbrook, a journey of nearly 2 miles. Not far, but far enough when you're hungry and cold and carrying nothing of real value to trade. Still, your mother insists you go. Take the wool, she says, pressing a small, scratchy bundle into your hands. It's rough, but it's clean. They might give you onions for it. Maybe lentils if you smile. You don't want to smile. Not today. Wilrick wants to go with you, but your mother holds him back. He's too small, she says. Besides, the last time he asked too many questions and nearly got us cheated. So you walk alone, the cold biting at your ankles' boots, patched with twine. The road to Alderbrook cuts through pasture land and forest, winding past collapsed fences and the husks of trees struck by lightning. Somewhere in the distance, church bells ring, calling others to morning prayers. You do not stop. Your prayer is simple. Let there be food. Let them be kind. Let the wool be worth something. Alderbrook is bustling, at least compared to sleepy Hartcombe. Market stalls lean like tired travelers. Pigs squeal from behind wooden pens. There are smells, bad ones, yes, but also thrilling ones. Fresh onions, cheese rinds, dried peas. You approach a vendor whose eyes are sharp and calculating. Wool is it, she says, eyeing your bundle. Not soft, not white, not much. You nod. Clean, spun tight. She considers, then points at a small bag of lentils. That. You take it and go. You nearly cry. Lentils, real ones. A whole bag. But as you turn away, she grabs your wrist. Wait. Not so fast. Toss in that shawl. You hesitate. It's Edlin's shawl. Thin but embroidered, her only pretty thing. She gave it to you this morning without speaking, just folded it over your arm. You know what she meant. If it helps, use it. You hand it over. The lentils are heavy in your palm. You carry them like treasure all the way home. Back in Hartcombe, the house is warmer than usual. Edlin is spinning thread by the doorway, her cheeks pink from wind and effort. Your father is sharpening an old sickle with a rock. Your mother is boiling something in the cauldron. When she sees the lentils, her face softens. God is good, she whispers. She adds them to the pot. Lentils, onion, a few dried herbs, and water. You stir it together, watching as the lentils swell and the stew thickens. Wilrick dances in a circle. Lentil feast, it's a silly chant, but it lifts your spirits. Dinner is quiet, but full. Everyone chews, slowly savoring the way the lentils melt in the mouth, the way they catch on the tongue. They taste like nuts and soil and something deeper, something earned. That night, you sit beside Edlin by the hearth. I'm sorry about your shawl, you say. She shrugs. It looked better wrapped around hope than around my shoulders. You smile. That's the kind of thing she says. She always was a poet, even if she can barely read. Her words are her inheritance passed down from your grandmother, who used to tell tales of fairy circles and bread that rose by moonlight. I'll make you another, you promise. With what wool you laugh, the imaginary kind, spun from clouds and goat whiskers. She snorts, but then grows quiet. I heard something today, she says, voice low. From the priest's apprentice. He said a famine may be coming again. The north has already had frost too early. You go still. Famine. It's not just a word. It's a shadow that never fully leaves the village, always just a bad harvest away. You still remember the last one, even if you were young. The silence at night. The empty cribs. The way neighbors stopped visiting each other. And the burials, so many the ground froze around them before they could be properly laid to rest. You breathe in slowly. Then we'll prepare, you say, not because you believe it, but because she needs to hear it. More nettles. More mushrooms. Dry what we can. Save the goat's milk when she gives. Edlin nods. Your mother overhears and joins the conversation. We'll pickle beets, she adds, and salt the roots, and pray. We'll always pray. You all nod, though you know prayer alone won't save you. Still you believe in your mother's hands, in Edlin's courage, in Wilric's silly songs, in your father's silence. Together these things feel stronger than famine. The days pass. You ration the lentils, stretch the black bread with wild herbs. You boil acorn mush until it stops tasting bitter. You even try catching birds with traps made of bent twigs, though they always seem to outsmart you. But it doesn't matter. The meals come. Thin, yes. Strange sometimes. But they come. You learn to mix crushed nettles into your porridge, to dry mushrooms in the chimney smoke, to make a broth from nothing but garlic leaves, old carrot tops, and the memory of flavor. One morning, Wilric catches a fish, a small one, from the muddy creek. He runs home holding it high like a knight returning from battle. Your mother cooks it with barley and wild leek. You eat in silence, smiling. Food in Heartcombe isn't just sustenance. It's story. It's struggle. It's song. It's something earned through aching fingers, bartered shawls, and muddy boots. And somehow that makes it sacred. It rains for 2 days without pause. Not the gentle spring drizzle that coaxes herbs from the ground, but the kind that soaks through your cloak, your shoes, your soul. The kind that makes you dream of dry cellars and warm porridge, neither of which you have. Your family huddles inside the hut. The roof leaks in 2 places, and Edlin has placed pots beneath the drips. You sit on a stool by the hearth, staring into the embers. There is no flame, only the faintest orange glow clinging to the ash. You'd give anything for more firewood, but the woods are sodden, and the last of the dry sticks were burned yesterday. Should we boil the barley? Wilric asks, hopefully eyes wide. Your mother gives him a long look. No barley left. The words hang in the air like thunder. No barley. You turn to the back corner of the hut where the food sack sits. It's empty now, save for a crust of bread too hard to chew and a few dried chickpeas rattling at the bottom. The goat hasn't given milk in 4 days. The hens have stopped laying. Even the turnips have turned bitter. Hunger curls inside you again, not just in your stomach, but in your bones. I'll go to the abbey, your father says suddenly. Everyone looks up. It's St. Guthlach's feast, he continues. They'll be feeding the poor. Your mother nods slowly. You'll take the boy. Wilric sits up straight. Me, not you, she says gently. Your brother. You rise, pulling your cloak tighter. The abbey is half a day's walk across bog and hill, past the ruins of an old Roman road, and through woods rumored to be cursed. But the monks there brew ale. They grow leeks and cabbage. They have stores. And on feast days they hand out alms to peasants, thin soup and crusts, but alms all the same. You and your father set off before dawn. The path is miserable. Mud sucks at your boots. The rain has turned the hills into rivers. But your father walks with purpose, and so do you. Along the way, he tells you about the time he first tasted dried cod brought by a merchant from the coast. Smelled awful, he says, but it tasted like the sea. You wonder what the sea tastes like. You've never been farther than Alderbrook. The abbey looms at the edge of the woods, all gray stone and narrow windows. Its bell tolls as you approach, calling the monks to prayer. You see others arriving, too. Women with babies, old men leaning on sticks, children thinner than Wilrick. A monk with a round face and a voice like a plucked harp greets the line. Blessings, he says. 1 portion per soul. You receive a bowl of stew, mostly water, but warm with slivers of carrot and something that might be cabbage. The bread is coarse but fresh. You don't wait. You eat where you stand, the rain dripping from your hood onto the bowl. And it's delicious. Because it's warm. Because it's real. Because for the first time in 2 days, you're not hollow. Your father gives you half of his. No, you protest. He waves you off. Your bones are still growing. You eat it. On the way home, the rain lightens and the sky turns a milky blue. You walk slower. Your stomach isn't full, but it's satisfied for now. I used to work for the monks, your father says, as you pass the old bridge. Harvested their hops. They fed us then, every day. Not much, but regular. Why did you stop? They stopped paying, he replies. Said the harvests were too lean. They prayed for rain and got floods instead. You don't answer. You just listen to the squish of your boots in the mud. When you return to Hartcombe, Edlin meets you at the path, her eyes hopeful. You hand her the crusts you saved in your cloak, wrapped in cloth. She grins as if you've returned with gold. 3 meals, she says, if we slice thin. That night you sit by the hearth again. The crusts are dipped in hot water flavored with garlic and nettles. Wilrick sings a song about St. Guthlac driving out demons, and your mother hums along. Your father is quiet, staring into the fire again. But this time he's not thinking of famine. He's remembering warmth. You're beginning to understand something strange, something beautiful, even in the midst of all this hunger. Food is not just food. It's memory. It's generosity. It's sacrifice. When your father gave you half his stew, he was giving more than calories. He was giving hope. That night, Edlin sits beside you and whispers, "Do you think monks ever eat honey?" You nod. "Probably. They have hives. I'd like to taste it one day," she says. "Just once." You reach into your sleeve and pull out a single golden raisin. You saved it from the abbey. You press it into her palm. She gasps. "You didn't eat it. I saved it," you say. "For you." She doesn't eat it immediately. She just holds it, smiling. "Tomorrow," she says. "I'll eat it tomorrow." And in a place where every bite matters, that kind of hope tastes better than anything else. The fire crackles softly. The wind howls outside. But inside the hut, in the quiet dark, your belly is no longer screaming, and neither is your heart. By the time the first buds appear on the hawthorn tree behind your hut, the hunger has settled into a quieter place. It hasn't vanished. It never truly does. But the rhythm of survival has become a kind of music, now one you've learned to hum without noticing. Spring comes late to Hartcombe. The ground is still hard in places. The river runs high from melted snow, and the villagers keep a wary eye on the sky, waiting to see whether the coming season will be kind or cruel. You all know the signs now. The way the wind smells, the movement of birds, the crunch beneath your boots. Today you join Edlin and Wilrick near the edge of the woods. It's foraging season, and your mother has given you a mission: find sorrel dandelion cleavers and wild garlic. Whatever the land gives, whatever hasn't been claimed yet. Wilrick bounds ahead, his eyes sharp for green. Edlin carries the gathering basket, her sleeves tied up with string to keep them from snagging. You trail behind them, watching how carefully she moves, how she knows just where to dig, just what to pluck. "You've done this before," you say. She nods. "Every year, ever since the harvest failed." You crouch beside her and pull at a cluster of wild garlic. The roots come free, easily damp and pungent. "If we get enough," she says, "maybe Mother will make green pottage." You smile. Green pottage. A thin, watery stew filled with anything edible and green. No meat, no grain. But flavor, the kind that wakes the tongue, that reminds you spring has arrived. You find nettles, 2 young ones not yet bitter. You handle them carefully, turning the leaves with your sleeves to avoid the sting. Your mother will boil the bite out of them later, mash them with salt, and maybe even spread them over toast if there's any bread left. You return home with your arms full of green. The house smells of damp cloth and ash, but soon it fills with something brighter. Your mother tosses the leaves into the cauldron, stirs it with the long-handled spoon, and sings beneath her breath. Edlin adds a pinch of last season's salt, a miracle left over from barter. Wilrick finds a sprig of thyme tucked behind the hearthstone, long forgotten. And you, proud of your haul, scatter wild garlic into the pot and watch as the water clouds. It isn't much, but it's something. You all sit to eat. Bowls warm your palms. The broth is bitter and thin, but it's hot, and it tastes like growing things, like possibility. Even Wilrick, who usually complains, slurps every drop. Then your father returns from the fields. His face is sunburned and strained. He drops to his knees by the doorway and pulls out a bundle wrapped in burlap. Inside, a rabbit. Small but fresh. You blink, no one speaks. He lays it gently on the table. Found it caught in the bramble fence. Dead already. No arrow, no trap. Just stuck. Edlin leans in, studying it. "Are we allowed to take it?" you whisper. "It wasn't on the Lord's land," your father says firmly. "It was in our ditch." Your mother's eyes dart toward the shuttered window. Then she takes the rabbit and starts to work, skinning it quickly, cleanly, expertly. She does not sing this time. The meat goes into the pot. It hisses when it hits the broth. The scent shifts deeper, richer. The smell of promise. Dinner that night is different. No one gulps. No one laughs. Everyone eats slowly, savoring the rare softness of meat, the way it tears gently between your teeth. You chew it as long as you can, letting it linger on your tongue. Even Wilrick is quiet, his eyes wide as he holds the bone with both hands. Later, your mother saves what's left of the broth. She stores it in a pot near the fire. For tomorrow, she murmurs, "It'll thicken by then." You sit outside after supper, watching the sun drip gold over the trees. Edlin joins you. She holds a piece of rabbit bone in her fingers, turns it over and over. "You know what I remember?" she asks. "What, 3 winters ago, when we had the barley porridge with goat milk, the sweet kind?" You nod. "We stirred it with mint." She smiles. "We called it pudding." Wilrick hears and joins you both, resting his head on your shoulder. "Do you think we'll eat pudding again?" he asks. One day, you reply. "Maybe even this year." Your father sits nearby, sharpening his sickle again. The sound is slow and steady. Your mother hums inside, stacking herbs near the fire to dry. Spring does something to Heartcomb. It stretches it open. Air moves more easily. The sky feels less oppressive. People talk again, smile again. Even the hens begin to lay. In the following days, the meals grow just a little fuller. Sorrel stew, herb pastes, once even a barley cake dry, but still a miracle, and the leftover broth from the rabbit. Your mother boils it again with nettles and bread crust, and you call it rich man's soup for days. The land is shifting. It gives slowly. But you never forget the other truth it can take just as quickly, so you preserve what you can. Dry the herbs, pickle the dandelion roots, grind nettle seeds into powder. You even learn to mix clay and salt to preserve eggs for longer. You do everything your mother teaches because you've seen what happens when the cupboards go bare. And still, at every meal, you divide evenly. A scoop for Wilrick, a scoop for Edlin, a scoop for your father, a scoop for your mother, a scoop for yourself last. Because this isn't just food. It's family. It's ritual. It's the story of your days told one bowl at a time. And in Heartcomb, that story must always go on. A week later, the bells toll from the church tower with a rhythm you rarely hear, fast, almost frantic, echoing through the fields and woods with urgency. You know what it means before anyone says it. You feel it in the pit of your stomach. Someone of importance is arriving. And wherever power walks, hunger tends to follow. The Lord is returning. Sir Alric de Mowbray, the landholder of Heartcomb, and 3 other surrounding villages, has not stepped foot on this soil in nearly a year. But when he comes, everything changes. You've seen it before, the scramble, the fear, the pretending. Today your father's sickle is dropped in haste, your mother hides the best clay bowls, and Edlin quickly scrubs the floorboards with a damp cloth. Wilrick doesn't understand the panic. Will he bring food? He asks. Not for us, your mother says. Only rules. Sure enough, by mid-morning, the manor steward rides into the village, barking orders to the reeve, who passes them down like curses. Every household is to provide a tithe of grain or root. If there's no grain, then labor. If not labor, then firewood. If not firewood, then shame. Your family is lucky. You still have a small bundle of dried parsnips tucked away. Your mother counts them out with trembling fingers, wraps them in cloth, and sends you to deliver them yourself. The manor house sits atop a hill, tall and smug, its stone walls gleaming even in the drizzle. You've never been past the outer kitchen, but today the steward lets you approach the servants' gate. A young woman with soot on her cheeks takes your bundle and tosses it onto a cart already brimming with offerings from the other poor leeks, carrots, turnips, even a roasted hen, though you doubt it came willingly. You glance through the open door. You see bread, loaves, real ones, golden and crusted, wheels of cheese, baskets of eggs, strips of pork dangling like silk ribbons. And then it hits you. Your tithe helped pay for this. You walk home slower than usual. That evening, the village square is alight with torches and music. Sir Alric hosts a feast for himself, his knights, and a handful of chosen men from the village. Your father is not one of them. He wasn't invited. But the reeve gives you something unexpected, a leftover bone, a real one, with meat on it. No one asks where it came from. You carry it home like a holy relic. Your mother makes a fire, boils water, adds herbs, salt, old peas, and finally the bone. The stew that night is thick, the kind you only dream about. It coats your tongue, fills your chest, makes your hands tremble. Wilrick licks his bowl clean. Edlin sighs as she swallows. Your father doesn't speak, but he eats every drop. You go to sleep full. It feels wrong and yet beautiful. The next morning you wake to the sound of boots, marching. Soldiers are checking houses, looking for poachers. Sir Alric's dogs were let loose last night, and one returned with a broken leg. Someone fed it something bad, they say. They accuse no one outright. But your neighbor Tom, old half-blind, is dragged from his hut by the collar. They say he stole turnips from the manor garden. He swears he didn't, but it doesn't matter. Punishment is swift. You hear the whip before you see it. Your father holds Wilrick tight and tells him to cover his ears. You do not. You listen, and the sound sticks in your ribs. When it's over, Tom is left bleeding on the edge of the village. No one speaks. No one helps him until the soldiers leave. Then your mother brings broth, and Edlin brings moss to staunch the wounds. Later you whisper, "Was it worth it?" Edlin shrugs. He was hungry, and you understand. Hunger isn't just a feeling, it's a force. One that bends, rules, breaks backs, swallows dignity. In Tom's case, it nearly swallowed his life. You vow to never be caught that way. So you learn. You learn to forage in silence, to walk without leaving tracks, to harvest dandelion roots in the dark. You learn which mushrooms will nourish and which ones will kill. You learn how to cook with smoke that doesn't rise, how to store fat without attracting rats, how to dry herbs so they last through snow. Edlin teaches you how to make oatcakes from mashed acorns and ash. Your mother teaches you how to thicken stew with ground bark, and how to trick the tongue into believing it's tasting meat. And your father, he teaches you silence, the kind that keeps you safe. One night, Wilrick finds a squirrel already dead beneath the old hawthorn. Your mother inspects it, finds no sign of rot or poison, and cooks it down to almost nothing. You eat in the dark, the shutters closed. That meal feels like rebellion. It also feels like survival. Heartcomb grows quieter after the Lord's visit. Fear lingers longer than feasts. But your family grows sharper, tougher, not just enduring but adapting. You build traps in the woods, small, hidden. You mark where the wild onions grow. You barter secretly with an old widow near Alderbrook, trading nettle powder for smoked eels. And though the meals remain humble, they are yours. No more bones from the manor table. No more dreams of stolen loaves. Only what the land gives and what your hands can make of it. And in this you find something unexpected. Pride. Because the food may be poor, but the hands that make it are rich with knowledge. Because each meal is a song of resistance. Because you are no longer begging, you are building. And one day, perhaps, the Lord will leave, and the land will remain. Yours. The days grow longer. The air warms. You feel it first, not in the weather, but in the way the village moves. Boots fall lighter. People speak more on the path. The hens lay again. The goat, miracle of miracles, begins giving milk thin and bitter at first, but it's milk all the same. And with it comes something rare, a smile on your mother's face. She calls you and Edlin to the hearth one morning, a wrapped bundle in her hand. Inside is a ball of cheesecloth, and when she unwraps it, the smell hits you first, sharp, musky, and warm. Curds. Not rich manor cheese, no. Just goat's milk clotted with vinegar and pressed beneath a stone. But it's soft, real, and fresh. Goat cheese, Edlin breathes. Real goat cheese. Wilrick doesn't believe it until he dips a finger in and tastes. His eyes go wide. It's like butter and sour at the same time. Your mother sets it aside. We'll slice it over porridge. If I can stretch the oats. Porridge. You haven't had oat porridge in weeks. A traveling peddler had passed through the village and traded a pouch of oats for a mended shirt. Your mother has hoarded it like treasure, waiting for just the right moment. That moment is today. You spend the morning helping prepare the fire, grinding the oats with a rounded stone into coarse meal. Your father brings water from the well. Your mother stirs it all together with a sliver of salt. Then she adds the cheese. The scent that fills the room is something entirely new, comforting, smooth, almost indulgent. Each bowl you serve is shallow but precious. Wilrick clutches his like it might disappear. You eat slowly, letting the warmth pool in your belly. It's not just food, it's reward. A symbol that spring hasn't just arrived, it's forgiving you. After the meal, you and Edlin set out for herbs. Your family is preparing for something unheard of, a gathering. A shared meal. Not a feast, not by any lord's measure, sir, but a moment of kinship among neighbors. A few families plan to come together, pool their stores, and eat as one. It hasn't happened since before the last frost. You collect thyme, wild mustard leaves, and something your mother calls poor man's mint. You add dandelion greens and a sprig of ground ivy. You return home with your basket full, and your spirits higher than they've been in months. The gathering is simple. 6 families, each bringing what they can. The widow Osla offers a small meat pie made from pigeon and herbs. The Braggs bring fermented cabbage, sharp and sour. The miller's apprentice has a jug of thin ale traded for a favor at the abbey. And your family brings oatcakes with goat cheese and garlic paste. People gather on blankets. Children run barefoot. Laughter rises between bites. It's a holy thing almost. Not because of the food, but because of the sharing. You watch your father speak with Osla, see Edlin braid a crown of flowers for Wilrick. You sip the ale thin but slightly sweet. You eat slowly, carefully, trying to commit every taste to memory. A boy your age offers you a slice of his onion tart. You trade a piece of goat cheese for it. The onion tart tastes like fire and earth and smoke. You've never had anything like it. Later, when the sun sets and the others leave, you walk home with your family. There is a silence, but it's soft, like a blanket, not a burden. Your mother wraps the remaining cheese and oatcake in cloth and hides them in the cold corner of the hut. For tomorrow, she says, or the day after. You help Edlin scrub the bowls in the stream under moonlight. She hums a song she remembers from childhood, something about wheat fields and saints. You don't know the words, but you hum along. That night, your sleep is deep, dreamless. But when morning comes, you're reminded that spring's generosity comes with strings. The reeve visits again. The manor has declared a new tax not just in grain, but in livestock. Anyone with a goat must surrender milk. Anyone with a chicken must offer eggs, weekly. Your mother stares at the parchment in silence. We only just started getting milk again, Edlin says. I know, your mother replies, her voice low. They can't take all of it. They won't, she says, but they'll take what they want. And so it begins again. You deliver the goat's milk that week yourself. The steward says nothing as he takes it. Doesn't thank you. Doesn't even look at you. You leave with an empty pail and a clenched jaw. But when you return, your mother meets you with a small surprise. She's saved some of the milk, just enough to curdle and dry. She plans to hide it in a clay jar buried in the earth beneath the compost heap. They'll never look there, she says. It's dangerous. If you're caught, the penalty could be severe. but none of you question it. You've learned. This life isn't just about feeding yourself. It's about knowing when to give and when to hide. Wilrick calls it the milk treasure. You all laugh, but you mark the spot with a broken stone. Over the following days, the rhythm continues. Give, hide, gather, share. Your mother makes broth with wild leeks. Edlin dries mint for teas. Your father sets rabbit snares again carefully, quietly. And you begin writing a list in your head of every meal, every taste, every sacrifice. Because one day when Wilrick is older, or when Edlin leaves Heartcomb for something better, you want them to remember. Not just the hunger, but the meals, the green pottage, the cheese porridge, the squirrel stew, the shared tart, the oatcake crown. Because these were not just foods. They were hope served warm. The sun rises earlier now, golden light leaking into the cracks of your hut, before the rooster even begins to crow. Dew clings to the grass like glass beads. Birds return to the trees with songs that just weeks ago had fallen silent. And on this day, for the first time in memory, you awaken not to the gnaw of hunger, but to the faint smell of baking. Your mother is already at the hearth. Sleeves rolled high, her hair tied with a fraying ribbon. Edlin once salvaged from the manor rubbish pile. She stirs something in a wooden bowl, thick and sticky. Flour, water, yeast. The sour smell of fermentation fills the room. You're making leavened bread, you say, disbelief creeping into your voice. She nods without turning. The miller's wife gave me a scoop of last year's rye flour. Said it was going moldy and wanted it gone. You blink. This is more than luck, it's grace. You watch her shape the dough into a crude loaf. It's nothing like the soft white bread the steward eats. It's dark, coarse, riddled with bran. But it will rise. Just a little. Enough to be called bread. She sets it in a pot near the warm hearth to rise. You sit with Edlin and Wilrick by the doorway, staring out across the field. The wheat is still short, but finally green. The villagers have begun to trade again. You heard that one family even bartered herbs for a whole duck, plucked and dressed. And yet despite this change in mood, the fear never really leaves. There's word of a sickness in Alderbrook, Edlin whispers. The kind that comes with heat and coughing. You nod. Summer sickness. You've seen it before. When the water runs low and the flies gather, fevers follow. Boil the water. Salt the food. And stay out of Alderbrook, your mother says when she hears. That evening, the bread is baked. It's heavier than it looks, dense like a stone. The crust has cracked unevenly, and the bottom is slightly scorched. But it smells like heaven. You cut it carefully, sawing with a dull knife. Each slice is a triumph. Wilrick's eyes go wide as he bites into it. It's chewy, Edlin adds a pinch of salt on top and lets it dissolve on her tongue like sugar. You chew slowly, reverently. The texture is different from black bread. It gives a little. It fills the mouth. It satisfies. Real bread, you say softly. For once. Your mother smiles, weary but proud. It won't last. But it lasted today. And that is enough. Later, your father returns from the woods dragging a bundle of stinging nettle and wild pea vines. Boil these for broth, he says. And there's more by the marsh. Your meals improve barely, but noticeably. One day, your mother makes a paste from crushed beans, garlic, and cheese. She spreads it on slices of rye bread and calls it summer toast. Another day, you stew wild peas with onion greens and mint. Wilrick pretends it's feast day and eats 2 bowls. The land, it seems, is no longer angry, but the sickness in Alderbrook worsens. A merchant passes through Hartcombe, warning villagers to avoid the southern road. 3 deaths already, he says. A child, a priest, and a weaver. None buried properly. Heat and rats, he mutters. Always the rats. You scrub everything. The bowls, the knives, even your boots. Your mother insists you boil linen and sweep the floor twice daily. Still, your family continues to gather and cook, because to stop is to surrender. One evening, Edlin prepares something different. She takes leftover bread, crumbles it into broth, adds goat's milk, and stirs in mashed nettles. The result is green and thick. A peasant pudding, she calls it. It's warm and filling. Wilrick declares it his new favorite. You eat until your belly aches. That night you sit beneath the stars beside the river, listening to frogs sing. The air smells of mint and water and smoke. You glance over at Edlin. Do you think we'll always live like this? She shrugs. Not always, but maybe longer than we'd like. Do you ever wish you were born in the manor? She thinks for a long time. Sometimes she admits, but I don't think they laugh like we do, or feel joy when they find garlic in the woods, or cry over bread. You nod. You know what she means. There's a richness in poverty, not of gold, but of meaning, of making something out of nothing, of turning a root into a meal, of calling broth a miracle. Your father joins you silently, as always. He hands you a flat cake, something your mother baked earlier and wrapped in cloth. You break it in half and offer him a piece. He accepts it, nodding. You chew together in the dark. The stars blink above you, distant and cold, but your heart is warm. In the morning, you help your mother sort herbs for drying. Wilrick runs barefoot through the grass, chasing bees. Edlin carries a basket of watercress home from the stream. Lunch is simple bread soaked in broth sprinkled with wild chives, and 1 egg poached perfect split between 5 people. And as you eat it, you realize something you never noticed before. The less you have, the more everything matters. Every slice, every spoon, every green shoot from the earth. Each one is a story, a memory, a proof that you endured, that you survived, that you found sweetness in nettles, that you turned hunger into ritual, that you turned hardship into heritage. The sky has begun to burn pale blue most days, the clouds thinning like worn cloth, and the sun warming the stone walls of Hartcombe until the moss steams in the morning. Summer is fully upon you now, and while the village fears sickness, it also breathes a little easier. Everything is green, loud with buzzing insects and rustling crops, and the world seems to stretch a little farther each day. You're in the fields at dawn helping your father weed the barley patch. He doesn't talk much, but when he hands you the hoe and points to the crooked rows, you know what to do. The sun is just creeping over the trees, and your hands are already dirty nails rimmed in soil. Your shirt clings with sweat. The barley's still young, maybe a month or more from harvest, but it's standing. Not yellowed, not drowned. That alone is enough to call it a blessing. Your mother has packed a satchel of food for the day's labor. It's light, 2 pieces of hard rye bread, a wedge of goat's cheese, and a small cloth pouch of salted wild greens. You eat beneath a tree legs curled under you, the sweat drying on your arms as you chew. The bread tastes like dust and ash. The cheese melts slightly in the heat. The greens sting your tongue with salt and vinegar, and yet it feels like a banquet. Edlin joins you by midday. She's been helping Widow Osla boil barley water for the sick. Together you exchange news, 2 more cases in Alderbrook, but none here yet. A boy from the next village coughed up blood last week. No one knows where he was buried. You look at your hands at the calluses. You know that sickness doesn't care how hard you work. It only cares how strong your body is when it arrives and how much you've eaten before it knocks on your door. So you eat more that day than usual, slowly, thoughtfully. Your mother that evening decides to make something special. She saved some barley water left over from what was meant for Osla and mixes it with honey lemon balm and elderflowers. It's the closest thing to sweetness you've had in months. It's a tonic, she says, pouring a small cup for each of you. To cool the body, to keep the breath steady. Wilrick sips his and blinks. It tastes like flowers. Good, she says. That's how you know it's working. The next morning you feel stronger. Whether from the barley, the flowers, or the quiet laughter around the hearth, you're not sure. But you rise before the sun, eager. You and Edlin go to the stream for watercress and duckweed. On the way, you find snails clinging to the mossy rocks. She plucks them gently, plops them into the clay pot, and grins. Protein, she says. That night you eat snail stew. It's chewy, slimy, not exactly pleasant, but it's food. And food is your language now. It's how you survive, how you say thank you, how you show love. Every bite is an offering. The next day, something changes. A boy arrives from Alderbrook. He's thin, pale, shaking, his face blotched with fever. He falls outside the church and vomits into the grass. The priest rings the bell, not for prayer this time, but for warning. Don't touch him, the reeve yells. Don't go near. Your mother pulls you and Edlin back by the wrist. Wilrick is already behind the hut, frightened. The boy is taken away. No one says where. That evening the square is silent, and suddenly food feels different again. It becomes protection. Every herb your mother boils is medicine. Every slice of garlic in the soup becomes a shield. You drink water only after boiling. You chew mint leaves because the priest said the saints blessed them. And you prepare. You dry thyme and lavender and pack them in linen. You boil nettle until the broth is thick and green. You salt the bread until your lips sting. The meals grow smaller, simpler, but sharper. Everything you eat has a reason. Everything has purpose. Because now the hunger you face is not just the ache of an empty belly. It is the fear that you may not wake the next morning. Your mother makes broth from onions and wild garlic and forces you all to drink it twice a day. For the lungs, she says, to keep the sickness out. You never argue. Edlin begins storing clover honey in a jar behind the hearth. She says it coats the throat, that it might help. Wilrick asks if saints get hungry. You don't answer. Instead, you build a second compost pit further from the house to keep the rats away. You tie rosemary bundles above the door. You burn bitter herbs in the fire, even when it makes your eyes sting. Food is no longer just sustenance. It's armor. Your father does something else quietly. He digs a second root cellar behind the hut, deeper than the first. For what we'll need, he says, he stores dried roots. Jars of pickled cabbage, a sack of oats half full. You help him haul stones to cover the entrance. It's hidden well. And you begin to hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll outlast the sickness. That maybe you'll stay safe. One night you dream of a feast, a long table filled with warm bread, soft cheese, barley stew, and cups of sweet milk. But it isn't the food that fills your chest. It's the faces around the table. Edlin, Wilrick, your parents, Widow Osla. Even Tom, the old man, whipped for stealing a turnip, smiling with all his teeth. And when you wake hungry as ever, you hold on to that dream like it's another kind of nourishment. Because in Heartcomb, hope is just another ingredient, and you've learned how to stretch it. 3 days after the fevered boy collapsed by the church, Heartcomb shutters itself. No one says it aloud, but you feel it the shift. Doors close earlier, paths empty faster. The village becomes still as if holding its breath. The air is hot and thick, and even the bees seem slower, their buzzing reduced to a tired hum. You and Edlin sleep in the same corner now, Wilrick between you both. Your father moves his bedroll closer to the door, guarding without speaking. Your mother doubles the garlic in the soup. The meals get spicier, more bitter sharp, with horseradish, radish tops, mustard leaf. Anything to fight off the invisible sickness. The boy who came from Alderbrook, he dies. You hear it from the tinker who passes by with bells that no one answers. He calls out that the child's body was burned, that others are coughing now. He doesn't linger. Your mother prays louder. The priest blesses water and distributes herbs wrapped in string. Your family hangs them over the door, fennel, wormwood, marigold. Wilrick calls them sorcerer's ropes, and all the while you keep eating. Small meals, strange meals, but meals nonetheless. This week you try pigeon egg soup, a gift from the miller's son traded for your father's help mending a fence. The eggs are no larger than walnuts, speckled and delicate. Your mother cracks them into a broth of spring onion and wild barley. She stirs gently so the yolks swirl like suns. It is rich, beyond anything you've had in months. You feel the warmth climb through your limbs as you eat, and even your father, never one to show emotion, nods slowly with each mouthful. You chew quietly, reverently. Food becomes sacred again. But not everyone in Heartcomb is lucky. Tom, the old man who once stole turnips, hasn't been seen in 2 days. Edlin volunteers to check on him, but your mother forbids it. We'll send something, she says. If he answers the door, we'll know. You help prepare the offering flatbread with garlic paste and a jar of onion broth. You leave it on a stone by his door and knock. No answer. When you check the next day, the food is gone. You hope that means he lives. Back home, your meals become tighter. The stores are shrinking again. The goat has stopped giving milk, likely from fear or heat or both. The hens are restless. Your mother starts adding acorns to the flour, soaking them, drying them, grinding them down to stretch the dough. The bread becomes darker, heavier. Edlin calls it stone bread. Wilrick complains it tastes like bark. But it fills you, your mother says. That's what matters. And she's right. You chew until your jaw aches, but it does fill you. And in this world, fullness is victory. One morning you wake to find a pot of fish bones simmering over the hearth. You didn't catch them. You didn't buy them. Your mother shrugs. Gift from Osla. Said her grandson found a barrel of scraps behind the Abbey kitchens. Rotten mostly. But these were good. You wrinkle your nose at the smell. It's pungent sour. But when she adds wild garlic and turnip greens, it changes. By evening, the soup is something else entirely. Salty, sharp, warm. You drink 2 bowls. You sleep deeply that night. When the fever finally reaches Heartcomb, it arrives quietly. A cough from the Bragg boy. A red rash on the Reeves' daughter. Whispers first, then silence. And still you eat. Because eating is survival. Because without food, you can't fight. Can't pray. Can't care for anyone. Your mother begins preparing fire tea, a mix of ginger root, pepper, garlic, and nettles. It burns going down, but Wilrick swears it makes him feel invincible. Your father eats dried barley husk porridge and doesn't say a word. You try not to think about who might be next. Instead, you think about the sour porridge your mother makes the next day with goat butter somehow scraped from a small churn. You watch her ladle it into bowls, and you wonder how many miracles she has left hidden up her sleeve. That night, you tell Edlin a story about a queen who disguised herself as a peasant to escape a wicked lord. She hid in a hut and learned to cook herbs to gut fish to bake barley cakes with wildflower honey. She became stronger, you say, smarter, happier. Edlin smiles. Until the plague found her. No, you insist. She boiled enough garlic to scare the plague away. She laughs, her voice soft and tired. And that's enough for now. The next day you wake to birdsong and the smell of stew. Not weak stew, real stew. You rush to the hearth. There simmering is a thick pot filled with beans, carrots, onion, and something rich and fatty. You look at your mother. She nods at the doorway. Your father caught a hare. Your heart leaps. You haven't had meat since the squirrel. You help stir, seasoning it with chives and crushed mustard seeds. Edlin toasts old bread in the fire. Wilrick dances again. Dinner is silent. Too good to speak. The hare is tender, the beans soft. You lick the bowl clean. You go to bed that night not only full, but grateful. Because even in sickness, even with fear in the air, there is warmth. There is stew. There is family. And there is still enough left for tomorrow. The morning after the hare stew, Heartcomb is still. No birds, no carts, no footsteps on the path. Even the church bell has fallen silent, and that silence is heavier than any sermon you've ever heard. You step outside and feel the weight of the air thick and strange, like the whole village is holding its breath. Your mother doesn't speak as she boils water. Your father sharpens his sickle, though no one is harvesting. Edlin cleans the bowls with a rag that's been washed too many times. The broth from the hare is saved, cooled, and thickened overnight. Now she scrapes it into a crock and covers it with cloth, burying it near the back wall. A second feast, she whispers, for a worse day. You nod because that's how things are now. Every good meal must be matched with one day of dread. It's as if the land demands balance. By noon, the news comes. The brag boy is dead. No one rings the bell. The priest stands outside the chapel, eyes cast low, pressing a sprig of rosemary between his fingers like a talisman. The Reeves' daughter hasn't been seen either. You hear whispers. You hear coughing behind closed doors. You don't knock, no one does anymore. But inside, your home life continues because it must. The next day you gather wild oats, not enough to grind, but enough to mix with broth and greens. Your mother makes a porridge that clings to your ribs. She calls it iron oats. It tastes like smoke and salt and hope. Wilrick eats 2 bowls, then sleeps for 12 hours. That evening, your father returns with elderberries, overripe, sticky in his calloused hands. Your mother lights a fire, mashes the berries, adds vinegar and honey. She boils the mixture down to a thick syrup and calls it medicine. You sip it with a grimace. It burns your throat, but you sleep better. Let it coat your chest, she says, like armor. And again, food becomes more than survival. It becomes protection. Edlin begins drying orange peel and grinding it into powder. The priest says citrus wards off bad air. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. She stirs it into warm water, mixes it with mint, and calls it sun tea. You drink it at dawn and pretend you're not afraid. A week passes. Another death. then another. Each one cuts deeper, and yet your family eats, because that's all you can do, because food gives you rhythm, it gives you purpose, it gives you something to put your hands to when your mind is unraveling. Your mother teaches you how to make vinegar from apple scraps, how to ferment cabbage, how to pickle turnips with brine and garlic and cloves. Eat sharp, she says. It clears the head. You never thought you'd come to love sourness, but now you crave it. One afternoon, Edlin takes you into the woods. She carries 2 baskets and a long stick. You wear scarves across your faces, not just for the flies, but for the air itself. We'll find mushrooms, she says. You walk for hours. You avoid the paths. You check the underside of trees, lift rocks, peer into damp hollows. You find them slippery caps, gray and small, and one lucky clutch of golden chanterelles. You tuck them carefully into cloth. Then Edlin finds something else, a bee tree. The hum is low and thick, and when she puts her ear to the trunk, she smiles. They're wild, she whispers, but I know what to do. She marks the spot, promises to return with smoke and gloves. That evening you dine on mushroom stew with dried carrot and mustard greens. It tastes like the forest, damp and deep and ancient. Wilrick declares it the best yet. Even your father nods. But the truth is, the food is only part of what sustains you now. It's also the making of it, the gathering, the knowledge, the sense that you are doing something, that you are building a wall against death, one onion, one clove, one mushroom at a time. Your mother begins to hum again as she stirs the pot. And that is a song you hadn't heard in too long. The next morning, Edlin sets out with your father to harvest the bee tree. You stay behind to prepare water bowl's cloth. When they return, they bring a small comb of dark honey, wild, sticky, tangled with bark. Your mother scrapes it into a clay jar and whispers, "We won't eat this now." She hides it beneath the floorboards. Winter's gold, she calls it. That night's supper is thin barley stew, but your spirits are high. Wilrick tells a story about a knight who cooked soup in his helmet, and Edlin acts out the part of the horse. You all laugh, too hard, almost like children. Then just before bed, your mother does something unexpected. She brings out a sliver of the honeycomb, spreads it over a scrap of bread, and divides it 5 ways. You stare at it, golden soft, glowing in the firelight. You place it on your tongue. It tastes of sunlight. It tastes of survival. It tastes like a promise that this isn't the end, that the harvest will come, that you will outlast the hunger, and that one day you'll look back and remember not the fear, but the taste of wild honey split 5 ways beneath a roof that never quite kept out the rain. The next morning there's dew on the grass again, thick, silvery, and clinging. You step outside barefoot and feel how wet the world has become. But it's not the wet of spring or the oppressive sweat of summer. It's something cooler, a shift in the wind, a whisper from the coming months. Autumn is near. You smell it before you see it, the earth deepening, the leaves starting to fade at the edges. And though the crops are still standing, your father walks the rows with a slower step now, as if counting days, not plants. Harvest is close, he says, but not close enough. And it's true. You can feel the food growing tighter again. The meals have thinned. The salted greens are nearly gone. The goat has gone dry once more, and the hens have scattered their eggs where even Wilrick can't find them. The sickness lingers too. Though the worst of it seems to have passed, no new deaths in over a week, its shadow remains. People speak softer, trade less, touch nothing they don't need to. Fear still eats what hunger leaves behind. But your family keeps moving, because stillness is surrender. Today your mother decides you'll gather rose hips. The small red bulbs are just beginning to blush in the hedgerows, and she says they'll dry well and make tea that keeps your chest clear in winter. You, Edlin, and Wilrick set out early with 3 baskets and 2 scarves. You hum as you walk. Edlin makes a game of it who can find the biggest one, the roundest one, the softest. Wilrick invents a rhyme for each pick, red like fire round, like sun, I'll eat you all when day is done. You find more than rose hips, wild thyme, ground ivy, a patch of wild onion you hadn't seen before. Edlin points out a fallen tree where mushrooms grow like shelves. You gather them all. By the time you return, your hands are stained red and green and brown. The baskets are full. That night your mother makes a tea of rose hips and honey water, just a finger's worth for each of you, but warm and fragrant. And she makes something else, a savory cake. She uses ground acorns, mashed turnip, onion, thyme, and just enough barley to bind it all. She presses the mixture flat and cooks it on a stone in the hearth. It sizzles. It smells like everything you've eaten all summer. When it's done, she cuts it into quarters. You bite into yours slowly. It's crisp at the edges, warm in the middle, sharp with onion, and sweet with the ghost of honey. Wilrick moans like he's in a dream. Edlin just closes her eyes. You chew slowly, tasting every herb, every hour of foraging, every lesson your mother ever taught you. It's not a feast. It's not a banquet. But it's complete. And that somehow feels rarer. After the meal, your father returns with news. The Bragg farm has started threshing early. Their barley crop matured ahead of yours, and the mill will be ready to grind by next week. You sit up straighter. Flour. Real flour. Maybe even bread again. But it won't be easy. The Braggs are not generous. They'll trade, but they'll demand something real. Your family huddles around the hearth and takes stock. We have herbs, says Edlin. Dried mint, crushed mustard seed, wild thyme. We have a comb of honey you offer. Not touched. Your mother considers. And 1 jar of elderberry syrup. She turns to your father. Take it to them. Offer the honey. Hold the syrup back unless they ask. He nods. He leaves the next morning before sunrise and returns after dark. And he brings something with him. Flour. A whole sack. Coarse but fresh. Enough for real bread. Your mother stares at it like it's a child returned from the dead. That night she begins the dough. She kneads by lantern light. She hums as she works. You watch her hands, strong, cracked, certain. In the morning, the bread is baked. It's small, dense, round. The crust is cracked. The inside still steaming. You sit together in the weak morning sun and she slices it. The smell, yeasty, warm, alive, fills the room. You take your piece, you hold it for a moment. Then you bite. The crust crunches. The inside clings to your teeth. It's earthy, deep, real. You chew and sigh, and you remember. The first black loaf of winter. The bitter acorn bread. The broth-soaked stone bread. The barley paste. The mushroom stews. The wild garlic. The sliver of hare. The snail stew. The onion broth. The green pottage. The honey on cloth. And now this. A loaf. A proper one. You smile. Because this bread is more than a meal. It is proof. Proof that you endured the worst the year had to offer. That you boiled weeds, pickled nettles, and fermented hope. Proof that you learned, that you remembered. that you gathered enough sun and salt and silence to shape into something whole, that you carved a life out of famine and called it dinner. The harvest begins with a whisper, not with horns or bells or proclamations, but with the slow creak of a scythe through tall barley and the soft grunt of a man who has waited too long for the earth to give something back. Your father is out before dawn, his silhouette cutting across the mist like a blade. You follow him, bare feet damp with dew, a basket in hand. This is it, what the year has bent toward. Not just the planting or the praying, but this pulling something from the earth that you can eat, save, stack in sacks, and call yours. The barley fields are golden now, a sea of light. You feel the stalks brush your arms as you wade through following your father's path. Edlin joins you soon after, and even Wilrick is allowed to help. He picks up stray stalks, drops them in the basket, and sings his barley song out of tune. We're harvesting, we're harvesting. The golden grain is ours, he chants. We'll bake it into bread and build a throne of flour. You all laugh, but you don't stop working. The day is long. The sun climbs, burns, and finally dips. Your arms ache. Your legs are sore, and there's dust in your throat. But the baskets fill. The sacks swell. And the smell, oh, the smell of fresh-cut barley follows you like a blessing. That night your mother makes a special porridge. Not the old oats or the foraged paste. New barley, cleaned, soaked, boiled with the last clove of dried garlic and a bit of onion. She even adds a dash of the wild honey you'd hidden beneath the floor. The taste is unlike anything you've eaten all year. It's not sweet or meaty or rich. It's real. It tastes like effort, like dawns and droughts, like blisters and broth and bone-tired faith. You eat in silence, bowl warm in your hands, mouth full, heart fuller. You sleep well that night, and wake before the sun to do it again. The harvest takes 5 full days. You don't rest. No one in Hartcombe does. Even the priest helps thresh. Widow Osla brings beer weak but cold. The Braggs share their cart. Tom shows up to sharpen blades, his back still bent from the beating, but his hands steady. And slowly, your village becomes something new. Not healed, not whole, but united. Brought together by the land and the need for it to love you back. By the 6th morning, the grain sacks are full. Your father, for the first time in months, stands tall when he stacks them near the hut. Your mother counts them twice. Wilrick pats one like it's a pet. Enough for the winter, he asks. Your mother hesitates, then nods. If we're careful. That afternoon, the first of the flour comes back from the mill. The smell fills the entire hut. Your mother bakes again. Real loaves this time, 2 of them. Brown scored across the top and set on the windowsill like treasures. Edlin brings out pickled cabbage and wild garlic paste. You add a handful of dried peas to the soup, and suddenly it feels like a feast. No meat, no cheese, but bread. Bread enough for second helpings. You chew slowly, gratefully. Wilrick pretends he's a lord. Bring me more of this heavenly barley loaf, he declares, mouth full. Your father actually smiles. Then the unexpected happens. A guest. A thin girl no older than Edlin arrives at the edge of the path. Her dress is torn, her hair matted. She carries nothing but a satchel and a tired voice. From Alderbrook, she says, "Everyone's gone. You let her in." No one speaks for a long time. Finally, your mother hands her half a loaf. Eat. And she does. slowly, with shaking hands. You watch the way she holds the bread, as if afraid it will vanish. Later, when she sleeps curled in the corner, your father whispers, "We don't have enough for more." "She can help," your mother replies. "She has two hands." And just like that, she becomes part of you. Her name is Lise. She helps with the washing. She knows how to find mushrooms Edlin doesn't. She teaches you how to salt herbs so they dry faster. And she sings, always under her breath. The next week, she finds 3 hens wandering by the stream. One of them lays. Your mother laughs so hard she cries. You eat the first egg scrambled in a pan with barley crumbs and sage. You split it 4 ways and give the 5th slice to Lise. And you feel something shift, not in the air, in you. Because this rhythm of bread broth, barter, and bravery is no longer survival. It's life. And you are not just enduring it. You are living it. You are making bread from nothing, porridge from weeds, feast from fear. You are taking what the land gives, no matter how little, and calling it enough. You are building memories that will outlast winter. And when it comes, because it will come, you will not face it alone. Not now. Because your family has grown. Because your table, as modest as it is, has room for more. Because in a world where food is never promised sharing, it is the only kind of wealth that matters. And you finally are rich. The chill comes back slowly. First in the morning frost that creeps up the edge of the garden wall. Then, in the bite of the wind that cuts through your cloak even when the sun is high. You know the signs now. The trees speak with rustling leaves. The animals grow quieter. The sky turns pale as porridge. Autumn is retreating. Winter is coming. But this time you are ready. The hut smells different now, more like flour and onions, less like damp earth. The root cellar is full. The sacks of barley are stacked neatly by the hearth. Pickled jars line the shelves like glass soldiers, and dried herbs hang from the beams above your head, brushing your hair when you stand. You've never felt so wealthy. Your mother begins rationing. Not because you're starving, but because you're planning. Every loaf of bread is stretched now baked once every 2 days, mixed with acorn flour and bits of grain. Soup is served in thicker bowls. Herbs are used sparingly like coins. Even Wilrick seems to understand. He no longer asks for second helpings. Instead, he finishes every last drop, licks his bowl clean, and grins. "We'll make it through this winter," Edlin says one evening, as you eat roasted root stew thickened with barley. "I can feel it. And you do too." Then comes the festival. St. Bridget's Day. The harvest feast. No one had planned to celebrate, not this year, not after all that happened. But Tom suggests it. Osla offers to share apples. The Braggs bring fermented cider. Your mother hesitates. "We'll have to give something," she says. "We can make hand pies," you suggest. So you do. Together, all of you. Edlin mashes turnips and cabbage. Lise rolls the dough thin but workable. Wilrick slices onions until he cries. Your mother wraps each pie with her careful hands, pinching the seams closed like secrets. You bake them in the fire 4 at a time, watching the edges bubble and brown. The smell draws the neighbors. When you carry the hand pies to the village green, heads turn. You set them on a cloth by the fire, and people gather slowly, carefully. No one feasts, not really, but they eat. Quietly. Gratefully. Someone brings dried apples. Another brings parsnip pudding. Someone else a wedge of aged goat cheese sharp enough to make your eyes water. You sit beside Edlin and Lisa Wilrick, asleep in your lap. and feel the heat of the fire, the weight of your full stomach, and the softness of laughter. You survived the worst, and now you are celebrating. You see the Reeve pass a mug of cider to Tom. You see Osla dance with a child from Bragg Farm. Even your father smiles at the stars. When you return home that night, the fire is still warm. Your mother tucks Wilrick in and whispers, "We'll eat turnip pies for breakfast." And you all laugh because even now there is joy in repetition. The next morning, you rise early and help Edlin boil porridge. You add dried herbs and a spoonful of pickled onion. You slice what's left of the bread and toast it on a flat rock. When Wilrick wakes, he eats with both hands, stuffing his cheeks like a squirrel. Lise offers him her crust, and he bows as if she were a queen. The air outside is sharp. Frost laces the ground like lace. But inside, everything is warm. You prepare winter meals in earnest now. Broth with crushed barley and dried mint. Bread baked with dried peas and powdered greens. Cakes made from parsnips and mashed onion. Hot tea brewed from rose hips and dried orange peel. Butter scraped from the last of the goat's milk and buried in cool clay. Your mother teaches you how to keep flour from molding, how to dry meat over slow smoke, how to use ashes to preserve eggs. You're not just eating, you're mastering it. Food is no longer desperation, it's design. And then one night, the snow comes. Not flakes, sheets. The kind that silences a village. The kind that piles against the door. You huddle inside the wind, howling outside like wolves. You light the fire and take inventory. You have flower onions, dried herbs, salt pickled greens, dried barley, 1 carrot and 3 eggs, and you have knowledge. You mix flour, herbs, and salt. Add water and fat. You shape cakes and set them near the fire to harden. Your mother cracks the eggs into a pot, adds broth, barley, and onion, and stirs until the scent fills the room. Dinner is small, but it's perfect. And as you eat, Wilrick asks, "When spring comes, what will we cook first?" And no one laughs, because now the future feels real. The next morning, the snow is deeper, but your stomach is full, and your hands are steady. You helped bring your family through the darkness, one crust, one bowl, one herb at a time. And winter no longer frightens you, because the pantry is full, because the fire is strong, because you've learned how to take a year's worth of hunger and answer it with resilience, with bread, with broth, with stories passed down like recipes, and with the quiet knowing that even if the land fails again, you won't. The snow keeps falling soft at first, then thick and heavy, pressing down on Heartcomb, like a quilt stitched by cruel hands. The paths vanish beneath it. The trees bow under its weight. The world outside turns white, still silent. But inside your hut, life continues. The hearth burns. The steam rises. The meals keep coming. They're smaller now, measured with care, chewed, slowly stretched thin, but they are yours. The rhythms that once meant desperation now mean discipline. Every dried herb has a purpose. Every scrap of flour is accounted for. This morning you stir a pot of barley with your mother, the slicing in the last of the dried apples, and a sliver of honey. The smell is sweet, earthy, soft. Wilrick calls it snow pudding. He's wrong, of course, but no one corrects him. You eat in quiet. Lise watches the fire, her knees pulled close to her chest. She hasn't spoken much since the first snowfall, but today she reaches for seconds, and that is a sentence all its own. Your father sharpens tools in the corner, though there is little work to do. He watches the snow the way other men watch the sea. measuring, waiting. Edlin keeps a journal now, scratches names of meals into the margins of a tattered book she found near the church: turnip hand pie, barley and egg stew, snow pudding. She says she'll pass the recipes down someday. You believe her. Outside, the world rests. But you and your family don't. You plan. You bake. You warm water with stones and wash your hands like they're sacred. Your mother checks the root cellar daily, counts jars, rattles dried bean pods like coins. One morning, the Braggs send word Tom has passed. He'd grown quiet in the last week. You all knew it. But still, the news feels heavier than the snow itself. Your father says nothing, but after dinner he disappears. When he returns, he smells like cold earth and pine. He says only, he's buried now, under the old tree. You nod. That night your mother sets 5 bowls instead of 6. No one eats Tom's share. But your father places a crust of barley bread beside the fire. For him, he says. The next few days pass slowly, but still you eat. You boil pickled cabbage with wild garlic. You make oatcakes from the very last pouch of flour. You heat onion broth until it thickens like gravy. You split 1 egg 4 ways and pretend it's a feast. And it is. Because even now, in the darkest part of winter, you are alive. You are eating. You are together. And that is everything. One evening, Lise speaks again. Do you think we'll plant carrots this year? Your mother nods without hesitation. We'll plant everything, she says. Even the seeds we forgot we had. That night the snow stops. The air grows softer. The sky pinkens. The icicles drip like ticking clocks. And you know spring is coming. Not yet, but soon. You begin drying the last herbs over the fire. Your father mends the fence outside even if no one will see it for weeks. Wilrick makes seed packets out of old rags. Edlin plants rows in the dirt with a stick. Your mother makes bread again. Just 1 small round. She lets it rise longer than usual, bakes it slower, slices it thinner. It lasts 3 meals. You each get a piece with dinner, then with broth, then again with vinegar and dried greens. On the 3rd day, your father holds up the last slice and tears it in 2. 1/2 he eats, the other he hands to you. Start the season, he says. You take it. You chew. You close your eyes. It tastes of smoke, of time, of frost, of firelight, of the memory of stew, of laughter, of loss. It tastes like every step that brought you here. And you realize something you hadn't fully understood until now. You have become a keeper of your people's hunger. You have become their cook, their gatherer, their memory. Each bowl you stirred held more than food, it held hope. Each crust you shared was a gesture of resistance. Each recipe you carried was an inheritance. You did not just survive the lean months. You fed the people you loved. You kept the world turning. You kept the story alive. And now as you step out into the white quiet, you smell the faint scent of thawing earth beneath your boots. You press a hand to the frozen field, and you smile. Because soon the soil will soften, and when it does, you'll plant. Turnips, onions, cabbage, peas, barley, and memories. You'll plant memories. So the next time the hunger comes, the land will remember what you've given and give something back. So now as you lie back, blanket tucked, eyes soft, and breath slow, Think about the rhythm of that world, the rise and fall of seasons, the hush of snow against a thatched roof, the sound of soup bubbling over an open fire, the feeling of calloused hands pressing dough into shape. You've traveled across a full year in a medieval village. You've woken with empty stomachs and gone to sleep with full hearts. You've foraged beside a sister, bartered with a widow, stirred broth with a mother's care. You've shared bread in silence and laughter in fear. You've mourned. You've endured. And somehow you've thrived. Because that's what the peasants did. They lived not in wealth, but in deep connection to the land, to the moment, to one another. They knew hunger like a shadow, but they also knew how to light a fire bright enough to chase it off, if only for a night. You know that now, too. You've felt it. The scrape of the barley mill, the burn of horseradish tea, the miracle of an egg split 5 ways, the taste of wild honey hoarded and shared, the sacred sound of someone whispering, "There's enough, eat, so let yourself rest now, gentle listener. Let the season turn in peace. You are safe, you are full, you are home."